Welcome back to the Stuff or Whatever podcast. Your host, B. Quanchi here. Before we get started, always want to get in the habit of saying the best way to support the channel and me and all that is to like, comment, and subscribe. So you can do that here on YouTube, follow on Twitter for other fun tweets and updates, and on Twitch for catching live streams. I always have all the info in pretty much the description of every video and about either if you're here on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch. I do appreciate that. And also, speaking of Twitch, I do put my stream VODs here on YouTube. So all that's been backlogged. So if you don't prefer or don't get a chance to catch live streams, those are always here on YouTube. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about that maybe at the end of this podcast. So what I've been thinking, because I've been kind of inspired about planning out what I want to do, even though I don't really do much in a sense that to me this is like at the moment a hobby, and I don't know, it's like one of those things, it's a little satisfaction of just kind of working, planning things, having fun, and a lot of times it's just me like playing games and might as well just like record it and have fun with it if I'm gonna do that. But I do work a full-time job too, so it's one of those things that you don't want to be too burnt out one way or another and all that. And speaking of burnout, kind of a segue, but I wanted to talk about the news about the better.com thing that's been going viral. Basically, I think probably more people heard about this before even clicking on this podcast, but basically the CEO did a mass Zoom phone call where he laid off about 900, maybe a little over 900 employees, and went viral because I think one, probably others too, recorded like on their phone and they put it on TikTok. So TikTok kind of like got that to go viral. And I did myself, I don't use TikTok. I'm not like a TikToker or all that, but I did follow Phil DeFranco. So that's where I heard a big chunk of this news and on that. And there's a lot of criticism about it. And I actually didn't know what better.com was. So I had to do a little bit of research. I don't feel I was motivated to do much research besides a few headlines and things like that too. But I guess it's like a mortgage company and all that. And I guess in the video he was talking about like, I don't feel like, I can't recall the exact words, like with the market, like it kind of came off like it was a necessity to lay off this many employees. I believe he said it was 15% of the company, to kind of put it in perspective. So there's still a lot of employees, a really big company as well and all that. But some of the criticism, like he mentioned in the video, that like he didn't want to do it, and last time he did it, he cried, which he didn't do this time. And I guess the thing that's kind of causing a little bit of controversy, if you can call it that, is like comments he posted, I think beforehand, and kind of confirmed as well. But the big thing is about like employees. I had the word like stealing and theft, like more like time theft and stuff like that, like productivity. I think that was a big thing. Like I think I remember reading like saying that employees would actually work 2 hours, but actually clock 8 hours of work and all that. So kind of like what they call like time theft and stuff like that, when paying workers for doing nothing and all that. I can kind of get that, because I'm kind of I don't want to say like I'm the crazy like workaholic or anything like that, but I do like to think I have some of a work ethic. I like to stay busy. I like to stay productive and all that. When I see other people be lazy or milking things or slacking off, it kind of grinds my gears a little bit. But I feel like companies, at least some I work for, there's always those kind of checks and balances. Like they can monitor that stuff. Like maybe we couldn't call it like labor tracking or whatever. And it feels like, if things are seeming off, I feel like whatever leadership kind of like steps in terms of like coaching or even warnings or possibly write-ups, depending on how severe it is and all that. So I feel like, there's always that sense of corrective action and all that. And also, I mentioned burnout, and I think sometimes I honestly even felt this myself. What kind of work ethic and energy and stuff like that kind of goes down. It can just be overall burnout with the company. Also, I would like to see like more people like checking in like with mental health as well, like with job stress and economy or the environments, either inside or outside of work and all that. So like more mental health check-ins. Because I feel like if employees are maybe going down this path where they're maybe not as productive, lazy, and that maybe just having those one or two like sincere meetings and listening to them and supporting them, they can totally turn that around because you can probably lose a lot of really, really good workers, a lot of really good employees. We just don't check in, don't make an effort. I like to kind of keep them because sometimes workplaces can become toxic. Some things out of control become really stressful and all that. And like I said, mental health can play a big part of that as well. So I'm just kind of curious in terms of the better.com thing, if you were noticing these trends or these issues, were there any corrections? Were there any way to like kind of turn it around? Because when I think about it, 900 is a huge number. That's a really big number when you think about individual people getting fired. And also, my first instinct as well when I heard that is like, fuck this guy, because a big CEO, and right before the holidays, right before Christmas. And one thing, like, it felt like the call is like, you didn't want to do it, it just had to do so for the sake of the company. But then there's also these news articles and reports or whatever you want to call it. I believe the figure was $750 million of investors like going into the company. So they're getting money. They're not really hurting. And this is my kind of little experience. I don't know if the housing market is really having any issues, because I have seen like large listings before, like friends on Facebook and stuff like that, even complain or like, oh my god, a house like this goes for that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if there are really big concerns, but if a lot of investors are going to put so much money, I don't know. It just feels like there's more to it, but I can only get trimming the fat and getting rid of dead weight in a sense. But I just would like to see more like an effort or corrective action and turn like maybe a falling whatever you call like falling flailing employee into an outstanding one as well, to make them more of an asset to you than I guess a liability when you think of that, like when you think of like hours wasted pay and all that. But yeah, and I guess one thing kind of last thing that kind of grinds my gears about it is that from the little bits I've seen of the Zoom call, like what went viral on TikTok and stuff like that, it almost feels like he's trying to be transparent, saying, "Hey, we don't want to do this, but we have to," and all that. And really, I think there's like other reasons, and it's like trying to come off as transparent, but if you're just spouting out bullshit, even if trying to be transparent, you're not being transparent. So that's kind of like my 2 cents. Maybe a few extra pennies in those thoughts. But yeah, I just feel like it's kind of messed up and kind of sucks for so many people to be out of job. And it's probably just because how things are nowadays, whether you call it the ongoing pandemic, post-pandemic, and all stuff, getting that in the mass phone call. That I just had like a correlation to that, or the thought. Like I remember, I haven't watched it. I think it's still going, but the American Idol, like back in the day when they had like the audition phase and they had the rooms of the, I think it was like round 3 or 4, whatever. And the judges go into each room and tell them like, you're the group that goes on, or you're the group that's going home. It almost feels like that big disappointment. Although from the person at least behind the screen recording, he seemed just kind of like, fuck this guy, fuck this kind of attitude. So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have mixed reactions, especially with something as big as losing a job. I thought I did a little Googling, so I think they're still going to get a little severance or something, so it's not like you're totally being dropped and all that with no income, but I think at least it might be getting that. So it's not like they're being entirely screwed over, but it kind of sounds like, yeah, they're kind of being screwed over. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I meant to talk about this in my last podcast. Maybe I did, and I'm just an idiot. But because it was my podcast after Thanksgiving, and I just was thinking, because I made my own turkey for Thanksgiving, and I was thinking like so much with like TV shows and cartoons and sitcoms, and it felt like when I was younger, like before I did much in the kitchen in terms of like big meals, but it always felt like cooking turkey was like one of the hardest things you can do in a kitchen. It's like I feel like intimidated, but it is not hard at all. I don't know why that's such a big deal. I'm sure if there's certain things like if you prepare it a certain way, like spatchcocking in or certain brimes or stuff like that. But it always get the impression like, oh my god, just putting it in the oven is like so much work. Like I have to take it. I'm sure there's like recipes and stuff like I have to like take the turkey out, baste it, put it back in, all that. Or I don't know. I'm sure it can get very complicated, but it is actually pretty easy just to cook a turkey, like make a really decent turkey. Pretty much what I've been getting a habit of doing is just get one of those roaster bags, um, butt up the turkey a little bit, put some seasonings like salt, pepper. I like the meat tenderizing seasoning that you see around because I think it's a good blend. Just kind of like season up, bag it up, tie it, put in the oven. I think to me the hardest part is just doing the math of knowing how long to keep the turkey in the oven. Usually like by how many pounds of weight and stuff like that. Even like just simple stuff, it's like the hardest stuff, like making sure the turkey's defrosted and all that too. Because that's one big thing. I know people can like deep fry them as well, which I really don't get as well. Because it seems like it's more trouble than it's worth. Because you see like those videos I remember seeing like, it was kind of like staged in a sense that like the fire department shows what can happen. Like they had like a little have patio stage so they can see like how it can easily catch on fire. It was all controlled and all that, but and then you can also probably look on YouTube like see compilations of deep fried turkey gone wrong. Because I think we did that when I was younger. We did that at least one Thanksgiving, and we took all the precautions too, and it was good. But I don't see what the big deal is. Like I don't see it being much better or different than just cooking the turkey in the oven. Yeah, so just bag it up, throw it in the oven. Most turkeys, at least in my experience, have that little thermometer thing, like it pops, but I find it's good to have a good meat thermometer yourself so you can kind of check it. And honestly, to me, besides mentioning like defrosting it and doing the math at a time, I think just carving it is probably honestly the hardest part, and it really isn't that bad. So definitely let into look. I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention it on last week's podcast, but for me, just kind of your average schmo who gets kind of intimidated when you see like the fancy stuff like on cooking shows or Hell's Kitchen and stuff like that, just see like more higher end stuff like, oh my god, but really cooking turkey is pretty easy. I'm not sure because I remember growing up, my mom would do it a lot. I think even like my dad would get a turkey from work and all that, and I think we at least always did turkey on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah, because I don't know if we can really find them throughout the year. 'Cause I think I know Easter was a big like holiday dinner stuff. But I think we usually did the ham. Although we did have outside freezer, my mom would like even like save turkeys as well. So we definitely had turkey throughout the holidays and all that. But that's just my little point of that segment is that cooking a turkey really isn't that hard in my opinion. So um, the hardest part is putting away the leftovers and all that. But this is my little thought that I meant to say last week, but whatever. Another thing I wanted to talk about, not really triggered by anything new lately, but it's kind of my opinions about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I guess kind of what got my mind to this is I do follow the Only Plays channel, Chris O'Neill, and he's been playing the original game on stream. And I know he hates it. He played a little bit on his channel too. And I just like I have no really desire to play it. I don't have the latest PlayStation console in the first place. I'm not even sure if they drop it to PC yet because I believe that's a plan. But I have no intention of picking it up. I don't know because I was even doing a little research before the podcast, and I did not realize it's been 5 years since it was announced, and I think it was last year that it came out. I forget. Okay, I know they just released an upgraded a version for PlayStation 5, which is some kind of like cool stuff. Like if you bought the previous one, I guess it can get upgraded for free and things like that. But they also added a episode with a character Yuffie. And one of my biggest problems with the remake is that it just feels like it's going to be very, very long. Like I even did research like before the podcast because I thought like, yeah, the are going to be other parts, right? Because it's a big game for what is like over 40 hours. It just takes place in Midgar in a game. If you're not familiar, I'm sure most people are, at least if Final Fantasy VII peak years. Is that the part of the game from Midgar when the beginning of the game to when you leave Midgar isn't that far in the actual game. Like not even because when the game was released, it was released on 3 disc. And that's not even like it doesn't even feel like halfway through disc one. So I'm just kind of curious of how many parts we're gonna get, how long it's gonna be to wait to the next episode. Although from what I read online, I guess the second part is coming next year, 2022. And some people, I guess, some speculation is gonna since the first game was the original game was 3 discs, it's gonna be in 3 parts. But if it only covered so much story, I mean, I haven't even played because I'm sure they took a lot of liberations and did stuff differently with the remake story wise and lore and all that. But if it covered that much in the first part of the remake, like either there's going to be a lot more parts, or things are going to be cut out, or things are going to be really rushed and stuff like that. So I feel like that's just going to be a disappointment. Is that either the game's going to be so huge, like even get concerned, is it even going to be a finished remake? Because I rather just have one remake part, like just one game, because it feels like they're really stretching it out when they don't really need to. And it sounds like a lot of people enjoyed it and all that. I know some people didn't. So I'm also thinking about this as well in terms of like parts, whether it be video games or movies. Because the person I follow on Twitter, I'm pretty sure it was Esquire Bob, but kind of because I believe the trailer for the next Spider-Man movie, not the next animated one. Let me look that up real quick. Okay, that's it. It's like I guess it's related to the Spider-Verse movie, but the next one is called Spider-Man Across the Universe, Across the Spider-Verse, Part 1. And yeah, so it's a sequel to the first Into the Spider-Verse. And from what I'm just reading from this headline, it's going to be 2 movies and all that. And I don't know why they do that, like when it comes to movies nowadays and stuff like that. Like this could have kind of like done a trilogy, or I'm not sure how many sequels they're planning for these series of Spider-Man movies, the animated Spider-Verse ones. But it's going to give like a different name, or just call it Across the Spider-Verse, and then the next part afterwards is give it a different subtitle. Because for me, when you have like part 1 or I feel like usually that's the kind of like nomenclature when it comes to this, but it kind of feels like, okay, this movie's not going to be finished because there's obviously going to be a second part. And you just kind of feel like, okay, things are not going to be fully resolved. You know, this movie won't stand on its own because it's going to have a second part, or it's been planned before the movie's even released and stuff like that. So you kind of get these kind of preconceived notions like, okay, versus if they would have just dropped the part out. If it was just called Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, it would have been cool because Into the Spider-Verse, it wasn't Into the Spider-Verse Part 1 or anything like that. So I feel like that just distracts from the whole thing. And even though it looks cool, I still got to see the first one because I've been meaning to, but it just kind of feels like, okay, that's going to be cut off. I'm, going to feel a little, I guess that can also build like excitement for the next part as well. But I wish they would just let the movie speak for itself, like maybe at the ending, like set it up for the next part, for the sequel and stuff like that. Because I feel like back in the day, it's funny, I'm going to talk about movies that aren't too old, but back in the day, I think The Matrix is a good example of a movie that had other parts, but I don't even remember it really like being set up that way until you actually watch the movie. And even in my opinion, I think the first Matrix movie stands out on its own. I know people kind of criticize the what was the second? I can't even remember the next movies. I know the rebooting it kind of, or making a fourth movie. I think that's Resurrection. Let me look it up as well. Okay, yeah. So the movies, it's the Matrix, the Matrix Reloaded, and the Matrix Revolution. Also, it seems like they're keeping the R name, but didn't walk into Matrix thinking, okay, there's gonna be a sequel afterwards, like before the even movie starts and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I can enjoy this movie, and if they put the little shock twist or that build up at the end, or like, hey, this is gonna lead into something else, you're like, oh my god, when the movie ends. But if you feel like before you even watch the movie, it's just, and kind of like with like the Lord of the Rings as well, although that can be a little different since those were actual books as well. But it's not like Lord of the Rings Part One, Fellowship of the Rings, to just let the titles speak for themselves. And I think I remember when I saw the Lord of the Rings movies, I don't even remember if I knew if they were books first. And I think sometimes that can be a surprise. Like some audience is not going to know everything about the franchise and stuff like that. But I feel like when you do parts and stuff like that, it's this kind of takes away from the experience before you even see the movie. I get it sometimes when it feels like it's going to be too big of a story to tell at a reasonable time. Although with some movies, like I haven't even seen it, but the Endgame, yeah, I'm pretty sure Endgame was a very long Avengers movie. I was getting that confused with Infinity War, but I'm pretty sure Infinity War came first and then Endgame. But I think especially if movies are kind of like their own thing versus other it's based on a book or stuff like that. Just drop the part. We don't need the part one. We don't need the part two. Even with games, like I think that's going back to the Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't need part one, part two. Just divide it up. Even though with that, I think they're just really stretching it out. I guess kind of circling back to Final Fantasy VII is, and it is kind of a disappointment. I do really enjoy the the original game. I say first, but the original game. But it's actually not my favorite. I do like some of the spin-offs and what they did with it. Although it's kind of mixed reviews kind of thing as well. But I kind of like the more classic Final Fantasies. But how to say, like, out of the main series, maybe 9 and 10 are some of my favorites. Because I like just the aspect where each character is unique. They have the skills and own abilities and stuff like that too. 4, 5, and 6 are really, really good as well. I felt like as it got on, they kind of strayed away from what made Final Fantasy, in my opinion. That they just kind of had that bar set, or I don't know, just like that framework, that skeleton of what makes an RPG game when it comes to like turn-based and abilities and HP and MP. And I know they kind of gone more action kind of RPG kind of. I played a little bit of 13 and 15, but I played the whatever version they made for Switch, like the Pocket version and stuff like that. But that's just my little thing about Final Fantasy VII. I did also want to talk a little bit about NFTs. Just kind of throw it in the podcast. This kind of put a little bit more of my 2 cents. But to me, I just don't get it. I feel like a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people poke fun. It's stupid. And my God, like, somebody just see. I feel like someone's just trolling that sometimes. Like, I say like millions of dollars for this artwork. And I'm sure, I'm not sure how well known to everyone what NFTs are, but it's pretty much kind of like cryptocurrency in a form of artwork. It's just because I know the big ones that go around, like the monkey ones, and there's so many different like monkey faces and portraits or whatever you want to call them. But to me, it just seems like ridiculous and stupid and crazy and all that. And part of me just feels like a scam, like someone's trying to just make a lot of money by saying like, "Oh my God, it's a value," because it seems like people who support it. Or I've seen whatever snips and screenshots like on Twitter and stuff like that when it comes to like cryptos and all that. But like NFTs, I just don't get, and it seems stupid to me. It almost seems like a scam. I almost wonder if that's the case. Like if it's people trying to either get a lot of money or even launder money to make it look like, you know, doing these kind of certain transactions to move money from point A to point B, and have an NFT be like a distraction or something like that. It can be even a little scary too, because some of the like money laundering things can be terrorist financing and stuff like that. And because I worked with finances before for a credit card company and kind of like look out for things like that. I'm hoping that's not the case, but it just seems like first off really stupid, and it's like a scam, like someone just trying to get rich really quick and all that. And most ridiculous thing, I've seen videos like on this YouTube, so I'm not gonna add too much to the conversation. But that cartoon, the Red Ape family, I believe, it looks really bad. Everyone like with a few brain cells knows it looks bad, and like calling it the first NFT cartoon. Although one of the videos I said, I guess is technically another one that was the first to be funded or developed through crypto or something like that. So it's not technically it, but it's being built up, especially since the monkey thing is like the big NFT thing at the moment. I guess the only thing from what I've seen that I like about it is the Dr. Lion character. Just his design is kind of neat. But like as soon as he talks, he's like, "Oh, this is awful." Like any other characters, like the animation, how the mouth moves, voice acting, goes on and on. I'm sure other people made more and more complaints. But to me, it just feels like it's like a Newgrounds cartoon you would see a decade ago. It looks like competent in the sense that yeah, it's a cartoon, but it doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem, from the bits of audio and scenes I've seen, it's not really entertaining or funny. I'm not sure what the value is, but that just kind of blows my mind when it comes to crypto and NFTs and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. Like those are the time that I've been kind of tempted into cryptos like Bitcoin and stuff like. Even though nowadays I don't even think we could easily jump into that. But then I remember like, oh, people exist like Elon Musk, and then they say one thing one day, it drops, or another thing the other day it goes up. Like I think Dogecoin is one of the ones that had a lot of ups and downs, but I was mentioning earlier, like you've seen screenshots and stuff like that shared on Twitter. It's like these are these Twitter accounts called like NFT Bros taking major L's or something like that. Like people losing the life savings when it comes to crypto, whether it be the cryptocurrencies or I'm not sure about the NFTs, but it just seems crazy to rip off. And what I'm going to do as an experiment, because when I put out my podcast, I usually put in a description like what I'm talking about and put that into the post on Twitter. Use a couple of hashtags, gotta get noticed somehow. I'm just gonna put hashtag NFT when I post the podcast. Just wondering if I get anyone to like buy it or something like that. I feel like a lot of times companies or bots or whatever accounts like look for keywords or hashtags and they maybe assume you support it or don't. So I'm just kind of wondering if I'm going to get a response from some NFT account just because I mentioned that in the description of this podcast. So I mean, that's kind of like a small reason to bring it up. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about on this podcast, going back to like the channel and stuff like that, this is kind of I guess, somewhat of a funny story because I do watch a lot of YouTube. And for the past year or so, I had a friend who does the YouTube Premium plan. He does actually the family plan, and like he doesn't have a car, so he was actually a co-worker back at the old company we used to work for. But he lives close to me, so we did like carpool and like kind of like if kind of like this with that, not like too much like okay, if I do this, you have to do this for me. But like if I'm gonna rides, I have an extra spot on my family plan for YouTube Premium. Like yeah, I'll take it. And I think it's just been spoiling me because like not seeing any ads on YouTube, I didn't realize how much of a blessing that is. I feel like they charge a little bit more than I would like for the YouTube Premium service. But I bring this up because he's going through some things like changing jobs. Not to get too much in details, but he's putting a pause on that. So he's like, hey, YouTube Premium, I'm going to cancel that for a while and all that. Cool. Yeah, I get it. And now that all the content I watch has ads again, I did not realize how many ads people put on the videos. And these are like big channels with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers. And like, oh my God, I didn't realize there were that many ads trying to watch a video. Because I bring that up because I've been revaluing my channel, because that's what sparked me to kind of reevaluate my channel in the sense that if you didn't know, like, of course you have to like your mid-rolls, is the main one I'm talking about. But like before the video, the end of the video, the thing with a YouTube is that the video would have to be over 10 minutes to be able to have mid-roll ads. And a lot of since I put my stream VODs on YouTube, those hit an hour mark, if not a little bit more. And my podcast tends to hit about 30, so like Okay, I'll be a little conservative and stuff like that. So I put like maybe one or two or three, and like okay, because I think that's something I maybe heard before when it comes to doing those ads. Because when you have those ads, you can actually edit them. It's kind of neat. Like you have a timeline, so you can actually put a specific time of when you want a mid-roll ad to play. I'm not sure if it's always a video that or a skippable ad that can show up, or if it's like the little banner thing at the bottom. But like, okay, because I hear like that can be a turnoff if you're trying to be like a new growing channel, that having so many ads can turn off new viewers, especially if you're building your audience. It's like, oh, I'd be a little conservative, and then I go to like actual channels, and like, oh my god, there's a lot of advertisements and stuff like that. Like, I was almost like, here, YouTube, take my money. I want to be on YouTube Premium again. Another thing I heard, a good thing in terms of a content creator and YouTube Premium is that I believe it gets more revenue in a sense that if you have audience who has YouTube Premium watching a video, that would make more revenue than a non-premium user watching your videos and viewing or skipping ads. I'm sure that's different. I'm not sure if they keep track of like if people skip the ads or watch the full ads, because some of them can be really, really long. I think one is like going to be 5 to 7 minutes. Some of them are pretty short, but my God, I did not realize there were so many ads. And I bring that up because I've been adding a little bit more just to see how that does on a channel in terms of, I don't know. Like I feel like if things build up more, if I, because I like to follow like numbers and stats and stuff like that, and if it gets to the point that it feels like, hey, this is the kind of becoming more of a hobby, maybe I can invest. But that's a big thing, invest into it, because I've been thinking like maybe getting back into video editing. I do really simple stuff. I have a free video editor, but because it would be nice to have something like Adobe Premiere Pro or something like that, because it's other videos I would like to make if I had more time. And recently just makes it look decent, because I always worry about the presentation. So I don't know, I might just go like, oh fuck it, just put something out there. But there's some content I would like to create that I feel like I don't have quite the skill or resources to do so. But there's my big thing. There's just so many ads, like in general. Because you see that with like everything else. Like I think I mentioned in previous podcasts too. Like I dropped Spotify Premium, and ever since then, like, oh my god, it's just kind of frustrating. But you see ads everywhere all the time, and like you even notice that with a lot of plans like Hulu, I believe HBO Max, Paramount Plus, stuff like that. Just I'm mentioning some that I have experience with, but I feel like they have like, hey, for a few extra bucks more, you can avoid ads, and it's almost like, oh, you just want to pay money just to avoid the ads. I don't think I've really seen anything from an advertisement that really got me to like, oh, I want to buy that or see that or whatever. I think the only ones have been like actual sponsored content, like segments like on the podcast or a YouTube video, like sponsoring this or that. And I don't want to like brand drop name too much, just because I'm not getting sponsored and all that. But yeah, just the crazy thing with ads. And I don't know, because I've been thinking would like to do more with a channel, but it's like, it is what it is. Like, I work 40 hours a week and I don't want to like be burnt out. It's where I have as a good balance and stuff like that. I've been thinking about what I want to stream. So it could be a lot of games, but I don't know. I kind of want to get to the point like I pull up games that probably no one ever heard of, very like nostalgic from my childhood and stuff like that. So I just kind of like want to throw more out there, but still pace things out, because I just don't want to be burnt out. And also getting in the habit of like maybe getting some little highlights from the stream, and it's like even just small segments, just gonna put like compilations and stuff like that, even if it's reusing content. Because I did that with my Super Mario RPG. I did the boss fight compilation. I'm gonna do that with Yoshi's Story Yoshi Island that I'm finishing up, and all that. So I might do more of that too, but we'll see. And speaking of that, follow on Twitch if you want to actually see me play games. But I've been putting a lot of gaming content on the channel. I've been having fun, like just doing like gameplay with no commentary, just to see how that performs, and just have fun with that too. But if you want to hear me play video games, the stream VODs or on Twitch are the places to go. Yeah, so this will do it for this podcast. So thanks for listening. I know it's on YouTube and it's technically a video, but thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. And I hope everyone has a good day if you made it this far, and take care.